Good morning. This is Roth Conrad on American Safari. This morning I am a few minutes north of downtown Asheville, North Carolina at the Cliff House, a cabin owned by my traveling companion Miranda's family. Very convenient, very nice cabin. Anyway, we've decided to cook potatoes and eggs for breakfast. So, ideally, when you're having potatoes for breakfast and you're at home, what I like to do is get the potatoes cut up and kind of cooking on a low heat before I even make my coffee or tea or anything. But I'm doing the cooking show and everything this morning, so we're behind on that a little bit. But first thing we're going to do then is just cut up our potatoes, and then I'm going to go over everything else. Now, the smaller you cut your potatoes, the faster and quicker they will cook. So, big chunks take longer to cook through to the middle. And other thing I like to do is when you cut potatoes, you'll notice that they kind of have like a slimy, sticky residue. So one thing you can do is you can soak them and rinse them in a bowl of water for a little bit. So I got the bowl right here. And as soon as I get these cut up, we'll be right back with you. Now, when you're at the grocery store picking out potatoes, you'll notice that there's several different kinds. And I recommend just experimenting with all of them. They all have, slightly different flavor, and they all cook slightly different. They say some of them are better for creaming or mashing or baking. But for frying in a skillet, I don't know. A lot of times I use the small red potatoes. This morning I have the Yukon Golds. And once again, I do about 1.5 potatoes per person with these smaller ones. Sometimes there's these giant potatoes in the store, and then you can only do one per person. But this morning I have 3 potatoes cooking for 2 of us. And you can see I kind of have them in fairly small chunks. I'm kind of hungry, I want to eat. Sometimes you can do them more. Once you have them all in the bowl, you'll want to mix them up a little bit, and then you can just let them soak there. Sometimes potatoes will have these brown spots in them. I usually cut them off. Nothing to worry about so much, not a big deal. And you just mix them up a little bit. Now, say I'm cooking for 12 people or so, and I have a big, huge thing of potatoes, I will mix those up too, and then I'll rinse them and change the water. So we have ourselves like a pasta strainer or something that I'll use to rinse the potatoes. But we're going to let those soak for a minute. We'll get them started in a second. I'm going to go over everything that we have this morning. So for the potatoes, we have what was called a green cayenne pepper, green kind of spicy hot pepper, and we have a Vidalia onion, and those are going to go with the potatoes. Also with the potatoes, I didn't have any cumin. I had some paprika, but cumin and paprika is a very nice combination. Garam masala is an Indian blend of spices that is kind of similar to curries and whatnot. But it has coriander, black pepper, cumin, cardamom, and cinnamon in it. So we're going to use some of that on the potatoes this morning. Also, a good blend with that is a little bit of savory and a little bit of thyme. And then we're going to use some apple cider vinegar to give that a little bit of a tang. Garlic powder, of course, and I have salt and pepper. Ideally, sea salt and fresh ground pepper, if you get the grinders, is better, but this is what we're working with this morning. For the eggs, we have, here in Asheville, they have a Green Life supermarket, which is kind of like a health foods type supermarket. They have the bulk food section and everything. But Asheville seems to be real big on local stuff. These eggs come from Weaverville, North Carolina, which isn't far from Asheville. And nice big farm fresh eggs. They look beautiful. We're going to use 4 eggs this morning. 2 for me, 2 for Miranda. And on the eggs, I'm going to season them with tarragon, chipotle, chili pepper, and garlic powder. That's all that's going to go on there. We have cheese, which is a Jarlsberg cheese. Pretty good. I've never had it before. Miranda says it's delicious. Now, we found in the produce section a pepper. It's a purple pepper. Never had one before, but it was locally grown. We also have a locally grown squash, and we have some locally grown kale, which we're going to simmer down. So that's everything in there. I'm going to strain these potatoes and get them started. This morning, I have a bowl for the eggs. I have 3 skillets. One skillet's going to be for the potatoes. One skillet's going to be to saute some veggies that are going to go in the omelet. and then one skillet's going to be for the omelet. So we're going to go ahead and start heating up our skillet. I like to heat up the skillet before I add oil. And we're going to cook the potatoes on kind of a medium. So I'll get it on medium heat, get that heating up. I'm going to go over and strain the potatoes, and then we'll be right back. Okay, my skillet's heating up. I have the potatoes in the strainer. Since we're cooking them in oil, you want to try to give them some time to dry off a little bit so they're not full of water. Otherwise, they'll sizzle pretty bad. Now this morning, I'm using some 100% unrefined peanut oil. When you're getting oils, a lot of the cheaper and super clear oils that you'll find in the supermarket are chemically, the oil is chemically extracted from whatever they're extracting it. And so oils are healthier if you get the unrefined and unfiltered cold-pressed oils. So this one, when we bought it in the store, had a bunch of sediment in the bottom, and you have to shake it up, and that's good. All that stuff is nutritious for you. So get some oil in the skillet, get it heated up. When you pour hot oil into a hot skillet, it kind of works a little nicer. It gets soaked in there better, and it really smells like peanuts because it's unfiltered. So there's still a lot of peanut sediment in there. Now, I like to stir with wood spoons. So I have the potatoes. It's going to sizzle a little bit because they're wet. Woo! Sometimes I'll dry them off with a paper towel or a towel or something, but I didn't have any of that. So we made a little bit of an oil mess. Clean that up. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I like to cook potatoes on lower heat. I don't want them to heat up too fast or cook too fast. I like them better when they're cooked slower. So we'll let that go, and I'll be right back. So while our potatoes are cooking, I've gone ahead and cut everything up. A little green chili I've sliced and then kind of taken the knife back and chopped the other way. Onions I've diced. Squash kind of cut into triangles. Pepper I just kind of cubed. The kale is kind of stemmy on the end, so I kind of removed the stem up to where the leaf starts, and then I just kind of sliced all of that. Then we have our eggs in a mixing bowl, and a lot of times when you're making omelets or scrambling eggs or something, you'll add a little bit of milk or sometimes water or something to give the eggs a little more consistency. Water will kind of thin them out a little bit and make them. It's real good if you have a big skillet or flat skillet. It'll lay flat, and then you can kind of fold it over and get like this nice thin layer of egg. If you use milk or cream or something, it makes it fluffier. Now, this morning we've decided to use yogurt, which also helps to make it fluffy. So we're just going to add a couple spoonfuls of yogurt to our eggs. Three spoonfuls. And then we're going to stir that up. And now I'm going to add the chilies. I'm going to add the chilies to the potatoes. I don't use fresh hot peppers a whole lot, so I'm kind of unfamiliar. But I feel like if I add them at the beginning, it'll help cook into the potatoes. The potatoes will soak it up. And also, usually the longer you cook something, it'll change the flavor. So sometimes the spicy stuff goes in there sooner. It might not be as hot at the end. I don't know. We'll let you know if it's too spicy or whatnot at the end. Also, when I'm using things like savory and thyme, or sometimes rosemary, or anything like that, I like to kind of put that in and give that time to cook and soak in too, because it's a dried plant. So kind of like, you can make a tea from it or something like that. So it goes in the oil and we'll kind of pull the flavor out. Things like basil, and we're going to add the garam masala and the garlic. We're going to add all of that at the end. And I'm just going to stir it up. I'm going to go ahead and throw the onions in here also. And I'm going to mix up the eggs and get this started over here. We'll be back in a minute.